Dear friends, the Pentagon recently released a new set of materials about UFOs, or in official American terminology, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. We're talking about around 27 infrared recordings made by military cameras, older photographs from NASA's archives, and reports featuring objects that are hard to identify at first glance. Some of the images look spectacular. Bright spots in the sky, strange shapes filmed by cameras on board drones, and objects that seem to disappear or move in an unusual way. But do they prove extraterrestrials are visiting us? Watch the videos until the end to see what it's all about. I will go through some of the videos and then I will analyze each situation. I will also show videos where we see something similar, but we know what it is, so we can judge together whether what we're seeing now should be considered UFOs or not. Is this a UFO? It's called the Phantom of Baghdad. It was supposedly captured by an American Reaper drone with a thermal camera over Iraq, in the area north of Baghdad. In the image, you can see a dark, elongated, cylindrical-looking object passing through the bottom of the frame for a few seconds. It's interesting because the object seems to be moving steadily. It doesn't have visible wings, it doesn't look like a regular airplane, and you can't clearly see a thermal trail from the engine, although there is a trail visible, which could, however, be a camera artifact. That's exactly why it draws attention, not because it proves something extraordinary, but because it's a brief, ambiguous piece of military thermal footage in which an apparently ordinary object becomes hard to identify with certainty. But let's not forget that we're probably in a war zone, where the sky can be full of ordinary military objects. Missiles, drones, fragments, balloons, and more. In such conditions, a strange shape on an infrared camera doesn't automatically become something extraterrestrial. It could be a military object that hasn't been identified or even a malfunctioning one. Out of curiosity, I searched for a fully explained similar case and found one called the Middle East object. What you see here was filmed by a drone and has already been identified as a balloon, a metallic or reflective one about half a meter in diameter, and it appears to have been at ground level. The fact that it's a balloon is revealed not only by its shape, but also by the filming date, July 12, 2022, which coincides with the period called Eid al-Adha, when festive balloons are common in the region. This image was taken on the moon by the Apollo mission. It was included in the batch recently published by the Pentagon, featuring unidentified objects, with the note that it's not known what the 3 faint lights seen there are. The photo has been known for years. Initially, the photo didn't attract attention. In recent years, however, the Apollo photos, which were taken on film back then, have been digitized. After they were reprocessed with increased contrast and brightness, small bright spots started to appear, as is the case here. These spots on the original Apollo photographs are not automatically real objects above the moon. The original photographs were on film, and what we see today are digital scans of that film. In this process, artifacts can appear. Dust, lint, film defects, scanning marks. When the image is then aggressively reprocessed, these artifacts can be amplified. Older discussions show that these spots appear differently depending on the version and resolution of the scan. The Pentagon says it will take a close look at the original films. Some link the photo to the Apollo 17 transcript in which the astronauts talked about very large, very bright particles or fragments passing by the ship, described as something similar to fireworks. However, that event took place 3 hours after launch near Earth and could have been fragments detached from the A3 stage of the Saturn rocket, which was still operating. For comparison, we have modern photos taken from space that show similar bright spots but with normal explanations. In the Artemis 2 image, the sparkling dots are most likely satellites reflecting sunlight. In other NASA images taken in space, cosmic rays can hit the camera's detector and produce white dots or short lines. NASA explains that some white dots appear where there are no stars. If the particle hits a pixel directly, a dot appears. If it hits at an angle, a line may appear. So 3 dots in an Apollo photo don't automatically mean there are 3 real objects above the moon. This image is, of course, a joke made with AI. Some say this would be a recording of UFOs. The video was made public by the Pentagon a few days ago, labeled as an unidentified aerial phenomenon. Look more closely at how a small white dot can be seen moving in the center. It was filmed in Iraq in May 1922 by an American military platform with an infrared sensor. Disappointing, isn't it? We don't see a flying saucer. We don't see a distinct craft or impossible maneuvers. This is what some claim the Pentagon is using to tell us. These are extraterrestrials. In fact, all you see is just a dot. The object, if it is an object, is hard to recognize. The resolution is poor. And the image doesn't tell us the distance, size, or real shape of the object. And the most natural explanation can be found in the description given by other American authorities. The object is most likely a Su-27 or Su-30 aircraft. That is, Russian military aircraft operated by the Russian Federation in Iraq, where the footage was taken. In another video, you can see how quickly a plane can pass by the drone that's filming. Notice how these videos with alleged UFOs start to appear as ordinary footage of a bunch of things flying through the air, all of them terrestrial. Another video that might contain possible UFOs, as the Pentagon recently said. The screen is masked in black, probably to hide sensitive details about the military mission, location, or sensor interface. But you can still see something. In the upper right part, a small white dot moves very quickly across the frame. It was filmed over Syria in July 2022 by an American military platform with infrared and electro-optical sensors. Interestingly, the footage is brief, from a military system and very hard to interpret. Some people might find the footage strange because it was filmed by military sensors in an active operational area. The object is small, seems fast, is hard to identify, and appears without clear wings, lights, or visible details. This uncertainty can make it seem mysterious. Nothing here requires an extraterrestrial explanation. The report lacks measured data on altitude, speed, or unusual performance. The broader context of the mission involves surveillance of vehicles, people, and possible military equipment in Syria within a military zone. A simpler explanation could be a drone, a bird, or a military object. And the speed we see is not always the real speed of the object, because it depends on the distance to it, but also on the movement of the camera. A good example is the go fast footage. The object seems to be moving extremely fast above the water. However, officials say that there is nothing unusual here, even though they don't identify what the object is, but they say the object is moving much slower. Parallax creates the illusion of high speed. The F-18 plane that was filming was moving quickly. The camera was looking at an angle, and the object seemed closer to the ocean than it actually was. So there's nothing unusual here, according to those who filmed it. And this is similar to what the Pentagon recently made public. Why would these new Pentagon-released videos be seen as abnormal, suggesting we might expect something, like probes from extraterrestrials? The video with this unidentified flying object recently published is dated 2026. The location is not disclosed. It's an infrared recording, probably made from an American military drone. The sensor first tracks the area of interest. Then it moves from right to left to follow the suspicious object, zooming in and out. The zoom change makes the object appear larger, and zooming in highlights the fact that actually there are two small lights moving, like those on the back of an airplane. The two bright spots at the end don't necessarily require an exotic explanation. In infrared, a regular airplane seen from behind can mostly show the hot engines or exhaust areas. There are many recordings with real thermal cameras, where regular airplanes become bright spots or pairs of bright dots. Meanwhile, the airplane itself can appear as a pair. I also found an online discussion where someone suggests that it could be the engines of an F-22. This is roughly how the engines of an airplane look in infrared when seen up close. Could this white dot be a UFO? The Pentagon recently said yes, although they don't necessarily say it's extraterrestrial, just unidentified. We see how the object passes through an area with wind turbines located at sea. The location is not disclosed, and the footage was taken from an American military platform with an infrared sensor. The impression is that the object is moving quickly above the water, or even close to the ocean. On closer inspection, it seems that the object passes behind the wind turbines, which would make explanations like a reflection on the camera window or these types of artifacts unlikely. The fact that the dot seems to pass behind the wind turbines suggests that it could be a real object, not just a camera artifact. But without data about distance, speed, or altitude, normal explanations remain the most likely: a bird, a balloon, or a drone seen in infrared. Could this be the UFO recently sought by the Pentagon? The location is not disclosed, and the date is January 1, 2023. The footage lasts almost 2 minutes and was taken with an infrared sensor from an American military system. In the footage, the sensor tracks 3 areas that appear to have well-defined shapes, which seem to remain in a fixed position relative to each other. That's why they may appear odd, almost in a triangular formation. But the footage doesn't provide additional details about zoom, distance, or shape. The information has been blurred because it's a military recording. Personally, when I look at it, I see more like 3 almost circular objects. In infrared, what's white is hotter. It could then be 3 objects, maybe cylindrical, with a temperature difference between the surface and the interior. Looking online for something similar, I came across this. In the attached military correspondence, it was described as a circular object with a wire about 6 meters long hanging underneath and something suspended from the wire. Some say it might have been a sunlit balloon, explaining the shadowed areas. Could this be the extraterrestrial craft that some say was recently revealed by the Pentagon through the newly released files? The footage is very short, only 9 seconds long, and comes from an infrared sensor on an American military platform. The American authorities describe it as a contrast area, meaning there is a temperature contrast because it is a thermal image. They also say that it has the shape of an American football, with 3 radial projections. 1 pointing down and 2 pointing up at about 45 degrees. But is it an extraterrestrial craft? I searched on Metabunk, a site specialized in myth-busting. They say it could be an aerostat or a tethered surveillance balloon. A surveillance aerostat like this would fit pretty well, although it seems that the system in the picture was retired in 2015. The rippling effect in the footage, it could come from atmospheric turbulence, but it might also be partially caused by an aerostat that's deflating or being deformed by the wind. Could these be aliens from the new Pentagon videos? Here the white dot is so small that the editors paused the video to show it to us. The video was filmed in 2020, the exact location is not disclosed. We don't know more. At the 10-second mark, the person who reported the case stops the recording and circles it with the label "Small Unidentified Thermal Signature." That's all. There are so many possible explanations. A bird, a drone, a balloon, a distant plane, or a small thermal contrast target made to look more dramatic by the infrared image processing. I looked for something similar and I found it. It's an official video analyzed by the American authorities and explained 100%. And here we see small dots, this time 3. The authorities later identified them as 3 commercial airplanes at a great distance. The radar data and commercial flight information match the objects in the image, so I say, let's remain skeptical when we see dots in the sky. This one is nicknamed the Candler UFO. Although it was added to the Pentagon's new UFO list, it has been known for a long time, having been filmed in 2013 with an infrared camera. It is described as an 8-pointed star followed by a visible trail, which then disappears from the camera's field of view. Some consider it extraordinary because it doesn't look like a regular airplane. It seems to have no wings, has a strange shape similar to a chandelier, and then it disappears. However, the Metabank website says that the chandelier shape might not be the real shape of the object, but rather a diffraction artifact from elements in front of the camera, like the one on the right in this image. Such cross or star shapes also appear in other sensor camera footage, and some have even conducted an analysis of the diffraction pattern. I found something similar, another recording with a cross shape. Officials say that what we see in this similar image is just a commercial airplane, after analyzing the image and confirming the commercial flights in the region. If I hadn't known that, I might have thought I was seeing an alien ship. Let's be skeptical, I say. What do we have here from the new public videos released by the Pentagon? An alien ship? No, not the big ship on the right, but the small dot on the left, quickly passing in front of the camera. It's a small, very brief dot that enters from the lower left, goes up almost in a straight line, and quickly leaves the frame. It's filmed in infrared, somewhere in the Middle East, from an American military system. But we only see a tiny dot in a 9-second infrared recording with no description, no additional data. The movement is nearly linear, not the impossible acceleration or sudden maneuver we'd expect from an extraterrestrial craft. The simplest explanation is a small, ordinary object passing through the camera's field of view. A bird or even debris carried by the wind, and the speed of the movement can be, as usual, just apparent because it depends on how far away the object is, and that is unknown. Here's a similar and seemingly strange video. What could those bright spots filmed in infrared from a drone be? The American authorities say there's no mystery at all. They are migratory birds filmed in infrared. Their arguments are simple. The shape is similar to other cases identified as birds. The objects keep their relative positions. And the infrared signal pulses at a frequency compatible with wing beats. So here are some mysterious points in infrared, which are actually birds. Could this be the aliens probe? It was just made public by the Pentagon recently and filmed in the United Arab Emirates in June 2024. This is infrared footage from an American military drone. The object stays almost in the center of the frame and is described as an upside-down teardrop with a thin bar or a vertical tail underneath. What a pity for UFO supporters, though. The explanation is already suggested in the report by the person who filmed it, who says it is probably a thermal image of an object in the water. I looked for something similar that had already been explained, and I found the Puerto Rico case. In infrared, it looked like an object was flying quickly near the ocean, entered the water, and then split into two. But the military reconstructed the trajectory and concluded that it didn't enter the water. It simply went out of focus. There were always two objects close together, floating in a straight line at wind speed. These are the kinds of simple explanations there can be. Is this meant to be evidence of extraterrestrials in the new videos? De la Pentagon? I don't think so. I just put it here, so you can see how vague the videos recently released by Trump are. It's just a 5-second recording made in Syria in 2024. In the first second, a blurry, multicolored streak appears, passing along the top edge of the image. But the normal explanation is already suggested in the description. Glare, in other words, an optical artifact. It's an optical or sensor artifact, a reflection or stray light entering the optics. It lasts less than a second and appears at the edge of the frame. No extraterrestrials. They say it themselves. A moving white light, and these are supposed to be extraterrestrials? The Pentagon recently released a video filmed in 2024. In the first moments, the image is split between the normal camera on the left and infrared on the right, and the object is mostly visible in the infrared. It seems strange because it disappears when it reaches the left side in visible light, but then it can be clearly seen again in the infrared. But infrared can highlight reflections, fog, thermal contrast, or objects that are hard to see in normal light. So what can't be seen in visible light because it might be too small or reflect too little sunlight can become visible in the infrared. The shape might be a balloon, drone, or plane. To show you how easily we can be mistaken, I found something similar for you, but with an explanation. In this video, the object was filmed by an infrared sensor on an American drone. Upon analysis, the Americans concluded that its movement was consistent with a normal airplane, not something abnormal. So, once again, a strange dot in the infrared can simply be an ordinary airplane. And it looks so much like the videos just released to the public by the Pentagon, which some say could be probes from extraterrestrials. Another white dot moving quickly in the footage recently released by the Pentagon. The video is from October 2023, and the official report is quite mundane. The object is assessed as benign. It lacks normal maneuvering and isn't under intelligent control. Its thermal signature appears cold in infrared. The skeptic Mick West commented on X that it looks like yet another white dot consistent with a balloon. The skeptic mentioned a white dot on the network, likely a balloon. I'll show you this older video with a similar white dot, confirmed as a plane. It's easy to make mistakes. You see, objectively, the images recently released by the Pentagon don't look at all like those in alien movies. We don't see clear alien ships, metallic structures, impossible engines, or beings from another world. We mostly see small dots, thermal spots, and blurry shapes. What passes through the frame for a few seconds, and then the natural question is, why don't we have clear images? Not even one. Let's see what that alien ship looks like. Just moving dots. And many cases are old and well known, already discussed on the internet and explained by ordinary causes. Birds, balloons, planes, drones, reflections, parallax, or camera artifacts. We notice something else. Almost all the new images now made public by the Pentagon are in infrared. There, you don't see the world as in a normal photograph. Instead, you see differences in temperature and contrast. A plane can become two bright spots. A bird can become a quick blur. A reflection can look like a mysterious trace. In many recordings, if we're not told where to look, we wouldn't even see the object. That's why I avoided the weakest cases, which would have bored you. Many are just small dots crossing the image, with no distance, size, speed, or context. That's why I compared them to already explained similar situations. We saw how, in those cases explained even by the Pentagon, similar images didn't show UFOs in the sense of extraterrestrials, but rather planes, birds, balloons, optical effects, or parallax effects. Unidentified doesn't mean extraterrestrial. Sometimes it just means a bad image. If it seems familiar, we have every reason to be skeptical. The new videos don't bring anything new, and certainly nothing spectacular. That was today's video, so no aliens. If you also think what I do is useful, you can support me on Patreon. There I can answer your science questions directly through a personal video that I'll send you on WhatsApp. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you can do it right now by clicking this subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Christian Prasura. You guys are cool. All the best. Goodbye.